Gabbec itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place. Archaeologists in Turkey have finally done what many only hoped for. They opened a sealed chamber beneath Gobeclete, the ancient site often called the world's first temple. But as of right now, it is the oldest temple of this complexity that we have ever found. Since they opened this chamber that seemed frozen in time, the sheer size of some of these rooms is absolutely amazing. I mean, this one that we're in now is 120 feet in length. The shock hasn't been only about what is inside, but also about what it might mean for the story of early humanity. The world is watching and Turkey is stunned. Incredible, because there's 13 stories that go deep into the ground with ventilation shafts and 15,000 little shafts that bring air to even the deepest of levels. Join us as we find out what they find in the sealed chamber beneath Göbekli Tepe that has left Turkey in shock. The site, nobody believed. The first time anyone from the University of Chicago set eyes on the mound was in 1963. They noticed scattered pieces of limestone and assumed it was a medieval cemetery. For 30 years, the hill went largely ignored. The Yildiz family let their goats and sheep graze there, plows sometimes, clattering against buried stones, thinking little of the fragments under their feet. Klaus Schmidt had spent years digging at Naval Aurori, a Neolithic village a few dozen kilometers away in southeastern Turkey. He had grown used to uncovering settlements with simple dwellings, small artifacts, and modest ritual spaces. Then, farmers started talking about strange stones appearing in their fields near a hill called Göbekli Tepe. In October 1994, Schmidt climbed it himself. What? He saw made his hands tremble. There were no grave markers. Rising through centuries of accumulated soil were the tops of enormous T-shaped pillars. Within weeks, Schmidt's team began excavation. What they uncovered was astonishing. Limestone pillars, reaching 5 meters tall, some weighing as much as 50 tons. They were arranged in precise circles, perfectly aligned as if by master architects. Carvings covered the stones, both in low and high relief. Serpents twisted along the surfaces, foxes crouched with sharp eyes, boars bared their tusks, gazelles and wild sheep leapt in frozen motion, and vultures spread their wings. Most of the animals depicted were male and shown in aggressive postures, frozen in eternal tension. The bones buried beneath and around the pillars told another story. Over 100,000 fragments of wild gazelle, boar, deer, sheep, and various birds lay scattered across the site. None were domesticated. The people who built this place were hunter-gatherers, completely without farming. Yet, they had organized large-scale labor, coordinated expertise, and maintained sustained efforts over decades, maybe centuries, to construct something monumental. The architecture of this scale would not appear again for thousands of years. Gobeclete rewrote the rules of human history. Archaeologists had long believed that agriculture came first, then settlements, then monumental structures. Here the order was reversed. Monumental architecture, social coordination, and ritual complexity preceded farming. Schmidt realized he was witnessing a revolution in human behavior. This was not a society shaped by agriculture. It was a society that may have sparked it. Later, studies would reveal even more. The site contains at least 20 circular enclosures, each built with dozens of massive limestone pillars. Some pillars weigh as much as 80 tons. The carvings are rich in symbolism, hinting at shared myths, ritual practices, and possibly a spiritual worldview that united otherwise mobile communities. Carbon dating of charcoal. Fragments found in the fill suggests the site dates back to around 9,600 years ago, making it older than Stonehenge by more than 6,000 years. Gobeclete challenges assumptions about early human intelligence, cooperation, and ambition. It shows hunter-gatherers could plan and execute complex projects, coordinate hundreds of workers, and create lasting structures without farming, writing, or metallurgy. Schmidt called it the 0 point of civilization, a place where humans first demonstrated that imagination, social organization, and ritual could drive cultural evolution. Standing there, looking at the weathered pillars, reaching skyward, Schmidt understood that this hill in southeastern Turkey was more than an archaeological site. It was proof of what humans can achieve when belief, skill, and cooperation come together. But here's what sent chills down Schmidt's spine. The precision of the structures suggested these hunter-gatherers weren't just building randomly. They were following a master plan that would make modern architects jealous. Impossible. Mathematics. In 2020, researcher Gil Hawkley turned to computer modeling to map the layout of Gobeclete in ways no one had before. The results shook the archaeological world. The builders had used sophisticated geometry. The two central pillars in each enclosure aligned perfectly with the exact midpoint of the circular structures. Connect the center points of 3 major enclosures and they form an almost perfect equilateral triangle. This was not luck. It was deliberate. Someone, thousands of years ago, had envisioned the entire complex as a single unified design. Teams likely stretched ropes to mark precise geometric patterns before raising each massive stone. It demanded abstract thinking, mathematical skill, and coordination far beyond what we assumed hunter-gatherers were capable of. Moving these enormous pillars was no small featuring. Experiments suggest a team of 7 to 14 could transport one using ropes and lubricants in methods strikingly similar to those theorized at Stonehenge. Another study estimated that 12 to 24 people could erect all the exposed structures in under 4 months, though that excluded the painstaking carving of intricate animal reliefs that cover every surface. Serpents, boars, gazelles, and vultures, all frozen in dramatic poses. What makes Gobeclete even more astonishing is that they didn't stop at a single circle. The builders created multiple concentric rings, each more elaborate than the last. Then, for reasons no one fully understands, they deliberately buried fully functional enclosures every few decades, building new ones inside the older rings. Was this ritual renewal a response to social upheaval? Astronomic recalibration? Scholars can only guess. Ground-penetrating radar reveals an even deeper truth. Everything excavated so far represents roughly 5% of the entire site. Beneath the untouched soil, multiple circular structures remain hidden, along with what appears to be a massive rectangular building, possibly larger than anything yet uncovered. Archaeologists estimate 250 more pillars could lie beneath the surface, waiting to tell their story. In 2025, when teams finally broke through to explore a new section, the discoveries forced a complete rewrite of Gobeclete's story. The scale, precision, and complexity of what lay beneath made it clear that this was not merely a ritual site or a collection of monuments. It was the product of a civilization capable of planning, organizing, and executing architectural feats that rivaled structures built thousands of years later. Every stone, every animal relief, every carefully buried layer hints at knowledge and intention we are only beginning to understand. Now, many of these pillars have remarkable carvings on them. Wonderful carvings and bas reliefs of animals, birds, insects, all kinds of things. The builders had mastery of geometry, labor coordination, and symbolic design. They thought in ways that challenge our assumptions about the cognitive limits of early humans. And yet, much of the site remains unexcavated. If what has been revealed so far is any indication, the next decades of excavation may rewrite the story of human history itself. The secrets still buried beneath the soil promise to illuminate the origins of civilization, the first sparks of abstract thought, and the extraordinary ambition of people who lived long before farming, writing, or cities. And when archaeologists uncovered that new section in 2025, what they found didn't just add pieces to the puzzle, it changed the puzzle entirely, leaving the world to wonder what other secrets Gobeclete still holds. What they found in 2025. Since 2020, rumors have spread online claiming that work at Gobeclete had stopped. They are false. Excavation never paused. The project shifted focus to conservation, while continuing carefully planned digs beneath protective roofs. The 2025 season ran for about 5 months and brought discoveries that forced a complete rethink of the site. Between enclosures B and D, archaeologists uncovered a human statue placed horizontally within the walls. Its head and torso are clearly defined, though the feet are missing, either deliberately removed or lost to millennia of decay. This anthropomorphic figure gives rare insight into the spiritual and ritual life of the people who built the site, showing that these were not simply monuments, but spaces charged with meaning. In enclosure D, researchers found the painted boar statue, and it changed everything they thought they knew about early artistic skill. The statue measures 1.35 meters wide and 0.7 meters tall. Faded pigments in red, white, and black, dated to around 8,700 before Common Era, still cling to its surface. Its carved tusks, protruding tongue, and what may be human heads embedded in the design reveal a level of symbolic complexity and storytelling that stunned the archaeological community. Recent digs also revealed evidence contradicting Klaus Schmidt's early interpretation of the site as purely ceremonial. It wasn't until German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt visited the site and began digging. They realized what was really at this site. Archaeologists found living quarters, rainwater harvesting systems, stone-cut cisterns, and quarries with clear evidence of systematic stone extraction. People did not simply gather here to perform rituals. They lived here, worked here, and managed resources with ingenuity. Lee Clare, current excavation director from the German Archaeological Institute, now sees the site in a new light. The pillars of Gobeclete may not mark the start of civilization. Instead, they may represent a final defiant monument to hunter-gatherer traditions as agriculture swept across the region. The carvings on the pillars do not celebrate a new world. They seem to mourn a vanishing one, preserving the memory and power of a lifestyle under threat of extinction. Extensive restoration work during the 2025 season focused on enclosure C. Teams reinforced walls, re-erected standing pillars, and carefully stabilized surfaces. This painstaking conservation is essential because the majority of the site remains buried, holding secrets archaeologists have not yet learned to ask. Every stone, every relief, every symbol is a piece of a story about human ambition, belief, and the tension between old ways and new realities. What makes Gobeclete so compelling is not just the architecture or the carvings. It is the message embedded within them. The intricate animals, the anthropomorphic figures, the repeated symbols across enclosures. They are not random. They hint at a worldview, a cosmology, and a culture that existed long before farming, cities, or written records. These symbols may encode beliefs, myths, and social hierarchies that modern humans are only beginning to decipher. And yet, what has been uncovered is only the surface. Ground-penetrating radar suggests massive structures, more circular enclosures, and possibly rectangular buildings lie beneath the soil. 250 pillars may still wait to be revealed, along with carvings and artifacts that could reshape our understanding of prehistory entirely. The 2025 season proved that Gobeclete is far from fully understood. Each discovery raises new questions, and as archaeologists continue to peel back layers of earth, the real mystery remains. What exactly were these carved symbols trying to tell us? And what secrets still lie hidden below? Decoding the symbols. The limestone pillars of Gobeclete are more than stone. They are windows into the minds of people living over 11,000 years ago. What he discovered was mind-blowing. After discovering the first T-shaped pillar buried at the site, he soon found more of these massive structures. And what emerges is not a gentle pastoral vision. These carvings do not show deer or fish, the usual prey of hunter-gatherers. They highlight creatures that inspire fear. Lions, spiders, snakes, scorpions. Archaeologist Ian Hodder calls it a scary, fantastic world of nasty-looking beasts. Perhaps these early humans were confronting their deepest fears, turning terror into permanent architecture. Danielle Stordour of France's National Center for Scientific Research draws attention to the vultures carved on the pillars. In some ancient cultures, these carrion birds were thought to carry the dead to the heavens. The presence of vultures hints at complex beliefs about death, the soul, and what lies beyond the mortal world. Ideas far older and more sophisticated than anyone expected from hunter-gatherers. The T-shaped pillars themselves are anthropomorphic. The vertical shaft represents the body, the horizontal top, the head. Some pillars have human arms carved along the sides and even loin cloths, though they are deliberately headless. Whether they represent ancestors, deities, or supernatural beings remains unknown, but the care in their design makes clear they held deep meaning for the builders. Each enclosure seems to have a dominant animal repeated across multiple pillars. This may indicate that different hunter-gatherer groups, each with their own representative animals, gathered at specific enclosures. It points to organized social structures, distinct group identities, and coordinated rituals, early diplomacy, and shared religious frameworks among mobile communities. Gobeclete was not just a construction site. It was a gathering place where people negotiated social bonds, spiritual practice, and communal identity. The layout of the pillars may even encode astronomical knowledge. Some researchers suggest that certain structures align with solstices, equinoxes, or patterns of stars. If this is true, these hunter-gatherers possessed an observational skill and mathematical understanding that rivals later civilizations equipped with writing, cities, and agriculture. They were calculating, observing, and planning on scales previously thought impossible without a sedentary life. Every pillar, every relief, every repeated animal seems purposeful, deliberate, and symbolic. This was not a random decoration. It was a story carved in stone, a record of knowledge, belief, and social cohesion. The carvings may have served as a teaching tool, a ritual guide, or a form of communication across generations. But the exact message is lost to time, and here is the real question that haunts every excavation. Was Gobeclete a spark that ignited the transformation of human society, the leap toward agriculture, settlement, and civilization? Or was it humanity's last desperate stand, a monumental expression of a hunter-gatherer world on the brink of disappearing? As archaeologists peel back layers of soil and uncover more pillars, carvings, and enclosures, the mystery deepens. The animals, the symbols, the architectural precision, they all point to a society far more sophisticated than anyone ever imagined. Yet much remains hidden, buried under millennia of Earth, waiting to reveal whether Gobeclete was a beginning, an end, or something in between. Revolution or last stand? For decades, archaeologists believed that complex monuments and social structures only came after farming. The logic seemed simple. People had to settle and produce surplus food, and then they could spare resources for temples and ceremonial spaces. Klaus Schmidt challenged that assumption. Schmidt always hoped that it was arary, and that there would be burials underneath the walls or underneath some of the pillars or so on. But so far they have not yet found any human remains at the site. He argued that Gobeclete flipped the script. Building the monuments may have been the catalyst that made complex societies possible. The scale of the work supports this idea. Raising and carving massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing 7 tons, arranging them in rings, and then deliberately burying them, required hundreds of workers. These people needed food, water, shelter, and coordination, conditions that could have driven early settlement. Communities may have formed around the site, not because farming existed, but because constructing the site demanded it. Evidence nearby strengthens the connection. 20 miles from Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists uncovered a prehistoric village where the world's oldest domesticated wheat strains were found. Radiocarbon dating places agriculture there at around 10,500 years ago, just a few centuries after work began on Gobeclete. Feeding laborers, supporting ceremonial activity, and sustaining a growing network of visitors may have necessitated the development of agriculture itself. Some scholars suggest another interpretation. Perhaps Gobeclete represents a form of resistance. Hunter-gatherers watching the world transform around them may have created monumental architecture as a way to preserve traditional ways of life. The site's carvings, symbols, and enclosures might have been more than ritual. They could have been a statement, a collective memory etched in stone. The fate of Gobeclete adds weight to this view. Around 8,000 years before the Common Era, the site was deliberately buried. Not destroyed, not abandoned, buried. Every pillar, every enclosure carefully filled with soil and debris, preserved perfectly, but removed from active use. Archaeologists are still puzzled. Why go to such lengths to cover functioning sacred structures? Some researchers theorize that it marked an ideological shift. As agriculture spread and transformed society, these old gathering places may have become obsolete or even threatening reminders of a disappearing worldview. The burial could have been a ritual act of closure, signaling that one era had ended and another had begun. It was a symbolic handover from the world of roaming hunter-gatherers to a new age of settlement, farming, and social stratification. What makes this even more fascinating is that Gobeclete was not alone. Other sites across southeastern Turkey and northern Mesopotamia show similar patterns. Monumental construction followed by deliberate burial. The same communities experimenting with large-scale labor, social coordination, and symbolic architecture were likely driving broader cultural transformations. These were not isolated efforts. They were part of a movement reshaping human history, bridging the gap between mobility and settlement, ritual and survival, and tradition and innovation. Gobeklete's story challenges every assumption about how civilization began, instead of agriculture creating culture. It may have been culture, the desire to build, to gather, and to perform rituals that made agriculture inevitable. The monuments stand as silent witnesses to human ambition, ingenuity, and the tension between old ways and new. And as excavators continue to peel back layers of earth, the real mystery deepens. What other secrets lie buried beneath the soil, waiting to reveal how these early humans shaped the world we live in today? The wider sacred landscape. Gobeclete is not alone. Scattered across southeastern Turkey, sites like Kahanepe, Seyburt, and Seferi share striking architectural and symbolic features with the monumental hill in Şlurfa. Archaeologists call this network the temple, or Stone Hills culture. Together, these early Neolithic sanctuaries reveal more than isolated genius. They point to a sweeping regional transformation in human social organization, ritual life, and symbolic thinking. Even earlier precursors may have laid the groundwork. Göbekli dated between 10,700 and 9,250, before Common Era shows artistic and material traditions that likely influenced the temple sites. Its carvings, figurines, and toolkits suggest humans were experimenting with symbolic architecture long before permanent settlements or agriculture took hold. Complex ideas, abstract thought, and communal effort were shaping human society centuries earlier than previously imagined. Gobeclete's impact has reached beyond archaeology. Exhibitions showcasing the site have drawn over 6 million visitors worldwide. A recent highlight, Myths in Stone, Gobeclete, and the World of the Last Hunters opens at Berlin's James Simon Gallery from February 5th to July 31st, 2026. The exhibit features 96 artifacts from the Şanlıurfa Museum collection, including intricately carved pillars, animal figurines, and fragments of painted stone, allowing visitors to experience the scale and imagination of the site firsthand. Even the Colosseum in Rome hosted a traveling exhibition, demonstrating global fascination with these monuments and their makers. Schmidt, the archaeologist who brought Gobeclete to the world's attention, believed its true purpose lay beneath the limestone floors. German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt visited the site and began digging. They realized what was really at this site. Perhaps the site served as a burial ground or a death cult center, a place where the dead were placed among representations of stylized gods and spirits. Layers of dirt filling the enclosures yielded human bone fragments. Deep test pits revealed floors made of hardened limestone, evidence of careful construction and repeated use. Yet, despite decades of work, no definitive burials have been uncovered. The mystery lingers. Every discovery raises more questions. Why devote decades of labor to erecting 50-ton pillars with precise geometric alignment? Why carve lions, vultures, snakes, and scorpions into every surface while deliberately anthropomorphizing massive T-shaped pillars? What ideas, fears, or beliefs demanded such monumental expression? And what was so sacred it had to be preserved beneath layers of soil still untouched after more than 11,000 years? The answers may lie hidden in the 95% of Gobeclete that remains buried. Beneath these unexcavated layers could be further enclosures, human remains or artifacts that completely rewrite our understanding of early human society. What we have uncovered so far challenges everything we thought we knew about cognition, ritual, and social complexity in hunter-gatherer cultures. And yet, even as scholars piece together the fragments above ground, the real story waits beneath the limestone floors, silent for millennia. What was so important to these early humans that they built, adorned, and then buried their world in stone? The site stands as both a monument and a question, a mystery that may reshape the story of human evolution itself. What this means for everything. Gobeclete demands a complete rethink of human evolution. These were not primitive people gradually stumbling towards civilization. They were mathematically precise, artistically skilled, socially organized, and spiritually sophisticated. They coordinated massive construction projects, developed symbolic systems that scholars are still struggling to decode, and created monuments meant to outlast their own lifetimes. The site was active from around 9,500 to at least 8,000 before Common Era, marking the dawn of the Southwest Asian Neolithic period. It coincides with the emergence of the oldest permanent human settlements anywhere on Earth. This timeline rewrites what we thought we knew. Humans 12,000 years ago were capable of abstract thought, long-term planning, and symbolic expression on a scale that challenges everything about our assumptions of primitive life. Gobeclete disrupts the idea of linear progress. Humans were not slowly accumulating knowledge over millennia. Instead, this site suggests our ancestors already had cognitive abilities much like ours today. They could think symbolically about forces beyond survival, communicate complex ideas, and organize hundreds of people to accomplish astonishing feats of engineering. The difference between them and us was not intelligence, it was circumstances. Once groups began gathering for religious, social, or economic purposes, these shared activities created feedback loops, enabling ever more elaborate expressions of creativity and organization. The scale and ambition of the site also humble modern perspectives. We tend to equate technological advancement with intellectual superiority. Yet Gobeclete was built without metal tools, without writing, and without even pottery. In many cases, these people carved massive limestone pillars, transported stones weighing tens of tons, and created complex artistic reliefs that survived 12 millennia. The question it raises is uncomfortable. How much of our own civilization will last even a fraction of that time? Symbolism and spirituality were central to their lives. The T-shaped pillars, anthropomorphic carvings, and repeated animal motifs suggest structured beliefs, rituals, and possibly a shared mythology. Enclosures served as meeting places for groups with distinct identities, perhaps coordinating religious, social, and political life in ways that prefigure organized civilization. The very act of building may have driven social complexity and even encouraged early agricultural experimentation to support workers and visitors. More than anything, Gobeclete reveals the deep human drive to create meaning. Long before cities, kings, written laws, or organized religion, humans were gathering to build, to carve, to celebrate, and to memorialize. They were reaching beyond immediate survival, seeking to leave something that transcended their own lifetimes. Their work embodies ambition, ingenuity, and imagination at the dawn of human history. And yet, what we see today is only a fraction. Archaeologists estimate that around 95% of the site remains buried. Beneath untouched soil, pillars, enclosures, carvings, and perhaps human remains await discovery. Every excavation has rewritten part of the story. Yet, the largest revelations may still lie hidden, waiting for those who will finally uncover the next layer of human history. Gobeclete shows us that the spark of human creativity, cooperation, and transcendence predates what we call civilization. The monuments stand as silent proof that 12,000 years ago, people were already building something greater than themselves. And the most astonishing secrets, the discoveries that could reshape our understanding of humanity, are still buried beneath the earth, waiting to be revealed. The story continues. Every excavation season at Göbekli Tepe uncovers revelations that force historians to rethink human history. In 2025, a human statue was found. Its features carefully carved but missing feet, hinting at ritual or symbolic significance. The painted boar with pigments surviving nearly 9 millennia stunned researchers with its artistry. Even more striking, evidence of residential structures challenged the long-held idea that the site was purely ceremonial. Each discovery answers one question and raises 10 more, deepening the mystery of this extraordinary place. 43 massive megalithic pillars have been uncovered so far, some weighing tens of tons. Ground-penetrating radar suggests that up to 250 more remain buried, with some structures potentially dwarfing everything excavated to date. Beneath the Turkish soil lie secrets about human nature, social organization, and the earliest attempts by our species to understand existence itself. Scholars speculate that future excavations may reveal entire enclosures, hidden carvings, or evidence of rituals and gatherings that could completely rewrite our understanding of the Neolithic era. Klaus Schmidt, who dedicated decades to the site before he died in 2014, knew he had only scratched the surface. His legacy lives in every carefully removed shovel of earth, every artifact meticulously catalogued, and every theory boldly proposed and tested. What he discovered was mind-blowing. After discovering the first T-shaped pillar buried at the site, he soon found more of these massive structures. Schmidt understood that future generations would uncover things he could barely imagine. That foresight drove him to preserve and protect Gobecli Tepe, ensuring that the work would continue long after he was gone. The next great discovery could be tomorrow, or it could take decades, but it is coming. Somewhere beneath the limestone ridge, buried under millennia of soil, lie monuments, carvings, and evidence that could once again shatter our understanding of who we are and where we come from. Every layer tells a story of ambition, creativity, and an unyielding desire to leave a mark on the world. Gobecli Tepe is not just a relic of the past. It is a mirror reflecting the enduring qualities of humanity. Our ancestors were not primitive versions of ourselves. They were fully human, capable of planning, coordinating, and imagining worlds beyond survival. They carved meaning into stone to express identity, belief, and memory. They gathered and shared purpose, built monuments, and tried to touch something eternal. That drive has not changed in 12,000 years. Today, we build skyscrapers, code software, paint murals, and write stories, continuing the same impulse to create, to communicate, and to leave a trace. Gobeclete reminds us that human brilliance and creativity are constants, not products of modernity. The need to build, to gather, and to seek meaning has always defined us. The site stands as a testament to what humanity has always been capable of. It shows that we are driven to create, to question, and to reach beyond our brief moment on Earth. Every pillar, every relief, every buried structure speaks to a longing to understand, to connect, and to endure. And the story is far from over. Beneath the soil, waiting for the next generation of archaeologists, lie discoveries that could once again rewrite history and illuminate the very essence of what it means to be human. Please click the cards on the screen now for more interesting videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.